the key to driving safely is drifting, Craig.
Drifting, you say?
Drifting is going to save inclement weather driving for everyone.
Hello, welcome to the Brake Check Podcast. I'm Craig.
And I'm Bryan.
And today we have some more fun topics for you, what we're driving lately. We have some new cars that are coming out we'd like to talk about, or one new car. And then we have some winter storm / updates and advice, because we're in the middle of not blizzard, but the worst we've ever seen it. So but first, before we do that, Bryan, let's talk about what we've been driving lately. And that is, in fact, it's your studio at the moment because, well, the manufacturer hasn't picked it up yet because of the winter storm. So why don't you tell us what we've been driving and how perfect the timing it was?
Yeah, okay, so we're in the 21 Chevrolet Colorado ZR2 Bison. And I want to caveat this right away from the front. This is a very, very silly name.
What, Bison or ZR2?
No, Bison. ZR2 is just an option code. That's fine. I can handle that. If you can call it a Q60 Infinity, you can call it whatever you want ZR2. So, Bison's a silly name. Not that Raptor isn't a silly name, or T-Rex, but there's nothing predatory about a Bison. But it is an excellent truck, and I don't want to take away from it.
Well, but is Bison more of an overlanding animal?
I don't know. I think a camel is more of an overlanding animal.
Well, I'm for an American overlanding animal.
Maybe that's the theme. And really, that is the theme of this truck. And it's actually, the more I drive it, the more I realize that this vehicle is misunderstood in today's market. And we'll get into that more here in a minute. But I want to get back to what you started with, and that is what we're going to call Texas's version of a blizzard. And the incredible timing that we had this vehicle. So typically we have crossovers and cars and pickups and stuff, but we don't always have off-road focused vehicles with proper all-terrain tires and things like that. And the storm's been so bad that this vehicle was supposed to be picked up 4 days ago, and it's still in my driveway. So
we may just keep this vehicle. It sounds like, I'm not sure.
Well, look, I'm actually scheming to give them my truck keys back and hope they don't realize it's a Ford instead of a Chevrolet, and they take that one back and leave this one here. So I'm not sure it's going to work. Tune in next time. We'll let you know how that goes.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe next time we'll still be driving this.
Yeah, never know. So, before I ramble on about my glory in this thing, Craig, can you tell me your thoughts on it? Because you had this thing for a few days.
Well,
and, what's your takeaway?
Yeah, awesome vehicle. I love the whole overlanding aspect of it. I'm probably more excited about the idea of overlanding more than I should be.
It's a big club, don't worry.
You're right. It is a weird name. And to clear it up, ZR2 is a trim level on the Colorado. Bison is a package on the ZR2. Is that right?
That is correct.
Now, why is it called a Bison? I don't know. I don't know if that was AV. Probably. I'm not sure. I'm sure there was a joint deal. Who knows? But it's a old truck, but woefully not given the credit it deserves in the marketplace.
I completely agree. In fact, it hit me today. People are sleeping on this truck. They're just missing what it is and how good it is. And not everyone is, because these things are still holding their value well on the second hand. Mm-hmm. But by and large, everyone goes, ooh, that's a Raptor, or ooh, that's a Gladiator Rubicon, or ooh, that's a TRD Pro Tacoma. And while those are all formidable as well, I'm not taking away from those. The ZR2 doesn't get, at least in our region of the country, people look at the ZR2 and go, oh, it's a Colorado. Like, they don't even think that it's something special. And it's proven that it is to me.
And here's what I don't, and this is what I don't understand. I guess because they haven't refreshed the interior hardly at all in years.
Sure.
But they haven't waited as long as Nissan did. And to be fair, Toyota, I guess, has refreshed the interior, but the Tacoma is woefully old as well.
Yeah.
I don't understand how those trucks seem to get more street credit, especially the Tacoma, over this thing, because I feel like the Colorado or the Bison in particularly, even the ZR2, would wipe the floor of a Tacoma TRD Pro. I don't understand why they're not compared more, why it's not mentioned that how much better the ZR2 is. It's not like it's not reliable.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not as capable. In fact, it's more capable. I don't understand it. So,
well, and I get it. Like, there's a legendary part about a compact or now mid-size Toyota pickup. The Hilux has got history, and Top Gear tried to kill it, and at least on paper couldn't kill it, and all the different
but we don't
things.
have the Hilux here. I think that's one of the things that gets missed.
But that's the marketing genius behind it. And so I keep thinking that as a marketing exercise, this truck is a bit of a failure. Because you look at, like we just said, even the Frontier that's 16 years old at this point seems to get more cred in the trail riding and overland community than this does. And I just don't get it. This comes with Multimatic dampers, which are brilliant. They haven't faltered once. They managed to do a lot of things really well. And it comes with good tires from the factory. If you get the AEV package, which is the Bison, you get proper skid plates. I mean, it's just ready to drag its belly off anything. And it has a front locker. Like, that's a pretty big deal. I mean,
right.
The T-Rex doesn't have a front locker. The Raptor doesn't have a front locker. Right, and these are these super monster trucks, right? And they don't have that.
The Gladiator does, and that's it.
And that's right it. The beloved Toyota and the Nissan don't have it. And look, I've had the Nissan in off-road trails, and its rear locker is a locker when it feels like it. I've had a few moments where I was doing something wrong with the settings and didn't just come on, and where Ford lockers just come on when you turn them on, when you're in the right under 25 miles an hour.
Right.
And this one just comes on when you turn it on as well. And I'm going to commend it for something else. If you're there's 2 drive modes. There's not 12. There's 2. And when you put it in off-road mode, the only notable difference is that the throttle is a little less jumpy, but still very linear. And the rear diff does not unlock at 25 miles an hour. It just stays locked up to at least highway speeds. And I haven't had it on beyond that. But what that boils down to is if you want to be a hooligan, this thing is ready to do it and happy to do it.
Yeah, it lets you have fun. And
yes.
To me, that's probably both of our takeaways of this truck. It's refreshing. I can't remember the last new vehicle I've been in a long time, before we even started doing this whole thing, that allowed you to actually just be a maniac if you wanted to be. After you put it in the right mode, of course. You don't get in and it defaults to that, but you put it in the right modes, and you decide you want to be a maniac. It says, okay, have fun.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, Craig. Like, within a matter of seconds, and it's not an act of Congress to turn these things off. Within a matter of seconds, all the lawyers have left the truck. It's just you and the vehicle. And it's so refreshing. And refreshing really is what I think of with this thing. And granted, you mentioned early on that the interior isn't, I wouldn't call it current or cutting edge or anything like that. But guess what, dude? Neither is the Nissan. Neither is the Toyota per se. Toyota just got Apple CarPlay. Okay?
Right.
And the Ranger, while it came out about the same time as this, it's an old interior from Europe mostly. So it doesn't exactly, while its aesthetic is more modern looking, it's not any newer than this one is.
No, it's about a 10-year-old design as well.
Exactly. So I don't know. A lot of people will gripe on the interior, but here's the reality of it. It's kind of simple, but everything works as advertised.
Oh, functionality? Psh,
through the roof.
It hits all the marks. I mean, there's nothing to complain about functionality-wise.
Completely agree.
Are some of the interiors nicer in the Tacoma or the Ranger? One could
Gladiator.
argue. Yeah.
Even the Gladiator. Yeah.
Yeah. In the Gladiator, absolutely. Is the styling gotten a little old? Yeah, you could argue that. Functionality? It's just a matter of opinion at that point.
Yeah. So. My whole opinion is interior look and feel a little bit old? Sure, it does, but so does its competitors. In fact, I would say shy of the Gladiator, they all kind of feel long in the tooth at this point.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the true test of how you really feel about this. How many times have you researched listings of cars for sale right now and looked for a Bison to check pricing if you wanted to get one?
Continuously.
Okay, there's your answer. So, and is the truest test, because I have not found myself looking very much. As
Right,
much as I've
right.
loved it and enjoyed it, it's great. It's not for me in my life stage and where I'm at with my kids and my family. And it's nothing against the Bison. It's just,
It's
I
not
think
big
this
enough for
truck
you.
has made me realize I'm not in the market for a midsize at this moment. And it's just the bottom line. So,
Right, and that's true. And our daily drives are very different, and I'm reaping a lot of benefits of it being a midsize. And
Right.
so that's why it's speaking to me so much, because it is refreshing that I don't have to 3-point park every single time I park it. And it's, that's nice. But
Right.
but I also get it. You're in a different scenario. Your kids are a little older, and it just doesn't really work as a family hauler
Right.
routinely. So that's a reality of it, and I get it. It's not for everyone. Look, it's not perfect. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it is refreshing to get in something that isn't just completely automated. In fact, there is no auto start stop on this. There's no button to hit when you start it to keep the engine on. It's on because I used a physical key to turn it on, and it will turn off when I bump it off again.
A physical key. It's so great.
So great. So anyways, that's my take on the ZR2. It's a secret little gem, and dynamically, it's way more solid than anyone's given it credit for. And look, I'll be transparent. In this ice and snow, I've just drifted nonstop all the time, and it's just happy to do it. And that'll lead us into the tail end of this this podcast, by the way.
Yeah, it's been a riot, and I had it prior to the ice and snow, and I drifted it the entire time too. So it'll do that in the dry too, just so you know.
That might speak for it even more so.
My neighbors are really glad it's gone because they didn't like me coming around the turn sideways.
Right. Fair enough.
Okay, we have a new vehicle, one that, well, I'm sure you didn't expect us to talk about when I sent you that little list, but it's the 2022 Mitsubishi Outlander.
Yeah, I mean, look, Amazon's been telling me for 2 weeks it's coming, and like my other packages, it's about a week late. So, tell me what there is to know, Craig. Why should we care about this new Outlander?
Okay, well, first off, here's why we're even talking about the Mitsubishi Outlander. One, I'm always rooting for the underdog. I'm a sucker
Totally.
for that guy. And that's how I feel about Mitsubishi in general. They're a great car company. In fact, they're basically the first Japanese car company, and somehow they're not relevant here at all, and I don't understand it. I don't know what happened. I don't know what they did. Well, we do know what happened. We do know what they did. But
Well, I can tell you what they did, Craig. If you want to get into that, I'm happy to get into that.
well, that's another podcast. But yeah, so they had some issues. To be fair,
Yeah.
But they're trying to come back, and I'm glad to see another car company that they're not giving up. They're not going away like Suzuki did. They're still trying.
Agreed. Or Isuzu.
Or Isuzu. Yeah, two brands we've lost that were really good actually. And so I'm excited to see them continue to try, because it wasn't just Outlander they announced. They also announced the new Mirage, which I don't really want to talk about because I'm kind of bored by it. But
wait, I'm actually more excited about that than I am the Outlander.
Well, you can say that for the next podcast.
Okay.
And then now they announced this, although I haven't read a whole lot on it, the new Pajero, which I doubt we're getting, because if it was here, it would be the Montero. But let's talk about the Outlander, because I think it's interesting what they did. Number one, they announced it as a 2022 model, which I applaud them for that, because there was no aspirations of it being a 2021 model. Are you listening, Ford Bronco?
Oh boy.
So they might actually get it in the year they talked about it. So that's
Right.
interesting. So kudos to them on that. Number two.
They'll probably actually get it this fall as a 22 model.
Yeah.
If COVID doesn't really jam them up, they'll probably still make it in this year. But they gave them some buffer. Good point.
Yeah. And then another interesting move is it's a cross-platform vehicle. Now, I don't know. I don't know if you recall any. Do you recall another time where another manufacturer made something for Mitsubishi?
Made something for Mitsubishi.
Yeah.
No, because Mitsubishi makes something for everyone else. They make TVs. They make shipping containers. They make
Dodge Spirits.
Wait, no, I do remember something. So
Eagle Talons.
Well, that too. But it's not here. It's actually in Japan. So Mitsubishi executives want to drive a Mitsubishi, but they don't want to actually drive a Mitsubishi. So what they've done in the last 10 years is they've taken what we call Infiniti G37 is when it started. and up
Okay.
through the Q60, and they've actually taken that car and branded it as a Mitsubishi and mildly changed the badging and grille. And they call it Mitsubishi. I'll have to look it up, what it's actually called, but it is strictly for executives over there.
Very interesting, because I'm glad you mentioned Infiniti, because Nissan has some weird deals going on.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen Toyota and Subaru and BMW all do some cross-platform things, right?
And quite successfully, yeah.
We've seen Mazda do some things with Toyota. Of course, obviously
and
Mazda
Ford.
and Ford used to do stuff. Mitsubishi and Chrysler used to do stuff. But what's interesting with Nissan is they actually have, is it the Infiniti QX30 that is made by Mercedes, which is actually a GLA?
Yes.
Which is interesting that Mercedes is making that vehicle for Infiniti.
Kind of a bizarre marriage, but it seems
a weird marriage, because in this case, the Mitsubishi Outlander is really a Nissan Rogue.
What?
It's the all-new Nissan Rogue, which has gotten great reviews. We've reviewed one recently.
We have, yeah.
You did.
Yeah, and the chassis was quite good on it.
And it's getting a lot of high marks. That's what the Mitsubishi Outlander is. It's the same platform. Obviously, just like all these other merger cross-platform things, Mitsubishi engineers tuned the suspension. They did the interior. They did the styling.
Sure.
So, but underneath, same cars. Nissan
the hard
Rogue,
points
Mitsubishi.
are all the same. Yeah.
Yeah. All the points are the same, suspension points. So interesting that they did that. That's why I wanted to talk about it. I thought that was interesting. I think it's a good move on both companies, actually. I mean, a lot of people get upset by this. I don't know why. Because if it's a good vehicle, who cares?
Well, the reality at the end of the day, too, is that when you get more engineers that are competent on the project, you get a better product. And
Absolutely.
so I don't want to criticize it for a second, because I'm just glad that they're at least, like you said a minute ago, I'm excited Mitsubishi's coming back. Because when we were kids, the DSM market, which was the anything turbo that Chrysler had at the time, or any Mitsubishi available with a turbo as well, Evos, Eagle Talons, Eclipses, the foundation of Fast and Furious, those were cool cars.
Yeah.
They weren't exactly the highest quality. Their head gaskets weren't exactly existent, but they were really, really cool. And they were legends of just the street scene. And so, not that they're doing that now, but the brand has equity for a lot of people, and I don't want to see it go away. So I'm really excited to see them go through these hoops and pick a good platform. Honestly, the Rogue, like you said, getting a lot of high marks and is clearly a benchmark in its field. And look, the Rogue is Nissan's F-150. They sell a ton of these things. Man. So,
and they should. And here's the only bad news about the Outlander. We'll close on the bad news, but I'll end with the good news on the Outlander. The bad news is 2.5 liter with a CVT.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
Gosh, so
can they
don't know
can
if
they
it's
get
the
an engine from Mercedes and put it in there?
What'd you say?
Can they get an engine from Mercedes and put it in there? That'd be great.
That would be nice. So I don't know if it's the exact same engines as the Nissan and that are going to be in both the Nissan and the Mitsubishi, but we'll find out as that comes about. But here's the good news, and why do gearheads care about this? Why do you and I care about this? We keep talking about driving matters, right?
Oh, yeah.
Why would driving matter with a Nissan Rogue or Mitsubishi Outlander with a 2.5 liter and a CVT? Well, here's why. If you will ever want to see the Lancer Evo again, you better be rooting hard for this sucker to do good.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
So
that's
these
a really
cars
good point.
Pay for those to exist. So,
well, look, it's no secret that sports cars are not volume sellers. You're just not going to sell millions of them. And like we talk about platform sharing, the BRZ FRS 86 triplets, they would not exist without platform sharing.
Right.
And same thing for the Supra BMW Z4 relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not complaining about that. I am excited they exist. So
I'll take either one. If you want to put it in my driveway, I'll drive it.
Totally. And I might even pay for one. And so builders are doing what it takes. Passionate engineers are working their butts off to make sure these cars still exist. And a lot of them still have manual transmissions, which kudos. So like you said, sell all the Outlanders, please.
Yeah, so when you see the Outlander, don't get upset it's a Nissan Rogue or that it's a crossover with the CVT.
Right.
Be excited and applaud it and recommend it to all your buddies so that we can eventually get the Lancer Evo back.
Yeah, so we'll get Evo, 22 or whatever number they're on now.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Really excited about that. So that's cool.
Okay. Some quick news because we are in the winter. We're in the middle of Winter Storm Uri here in Texas. As you said earlier, the Texas version of a blizzard, the closest thing we'll ever get to one. And really interesting thing has come about. We saw on one of the automotive media outlets earlier today, and that's has to do with the new F-150. Brian, do you want to explain what people are doing in? So, a little background. There is this winter storm. If you haven't already heard, or if you're listening to this podcast, I don't know, a month later after all this has happened, there's all kinds of power outages. The Texas electricity grid, I don't get into any politics, but it could not keep up. So a lot of people sitting at home without power and no heat or water running and things like that. But the F-150 has come to the rescue. And why don't you tell us why?
Yeah, and so like you said, I wanted to add to that background. We've got over 2.5 million people that don't have power at the time of this recording, and for a lot of people, it's so cold. Well, actually, we've dipped below 0 degrees in a lot of regions, including ours, and that means pipes are freezing, and there's not enough heat in the house to keep the house thermally sound. So heat is an issue, right? Well, along comes the Ford F-150 with power boost and the outlet in the bed of the truck that allows you to have up to, 240, Craig, where you can run a welder off of it?
You can, or an RV, or
an
charge
RV,
a Tesla.
Charge a Tesla, which that also means you can probably control basic things in the home, like maybe a refrigerator, maybe space heaters, right? And so maybe several space heaters, enough to keep you comfortable and sound and alive in your home, which is great, great news. So I think Ford needs to be commended for having this available, because we're seeing reports now of pockets of people taking this and going, guess what? I just bought this truck. I'm not going to just sit in it with a heater running. I'm going to heat the house with it.
Yeah.
So we're actually seeing fuel shortages around here because people are trying to get warm in their cars. Forget that. We're going to run the house off the truck. That's pretty cool.
I'm sure it's not running actual heating units, central heating units, but you can definitely run some heaters off it, some space heaters.
Or keep your fridge going. You
keep your fridge going. There's a lot of, because the water outages, a lot of pumps have gone bad on a lot of municipal water supplies, and so there's a boil water notice for a lot of people. You could run a little, burner off this, electric burner or skillet, to boil your water. So here's what I like about this, what I think is so cool. Because we kind of joked about it and we weren't real sure. Power boost, it's kind of weird, and what do you do with that? Is anyone really going to use that? And I think it's awesome, because this is the exact kind of thing that you can do with this sucker.
Yeah.
This is what a huge selling point for the power boost. You almost don't need a generator now. You just buy the truck with the power boost. Your house has a generator now.
Well, that's the argument for Ford in the get-go. They just didn't pair it with natural disasters yet. Or they didn't market it that way yet. And look, I'm predicting it now. We're going to see an ad where the Ford pickup is saving the day for the cat and the tree and the nursing home with oxygen tanks, right? Like, it's going to do it all. Ford has one of the most incredible marketing teams in the automotive industry, so they're not going to forget that. Don't worry. And I'm actually looking forward to it. It's probably going to be pretty cool. And it's been a good thing for a lot of people in hardships right now. So I'm glad they're out there. Because, look, you can't even buy a generator right now if you wanted to. It's probably easier to buy the truck than it is to buy the generator right now.
Exactly.
So kudos to Ford on making that even exist.
Anyways, that's pretty cool. We thought we'd share that, and just something we didn't expect to see with a car. So
yeah,
pretty
really
neat.
Positive. Like that.
So those of us that make fun of us for talking about cars all the time and why do they matter? There you go. That's why they matter.
There you go.
Okay, so continuing the theme of Winter Storm Uri and all the dangers that come with it, right? And one of the main dangers is it shut down the roads. And so, because there's some dangerous situations out there.
Right.
And one of the things we see on the news, the local news or on Facebook or on, any government publication, is how to drive in this winter weather, because us Texans are, we're not very good at it because we don't get any practice at it, to be fair. But we get a lot of advice on the radio and all these outlets to turn into the steer, which is confusing for people. What does that mean? Does that mean the direction of the steer, meaning
you turn into the skid? Yeah.
The nose of the car, the rear of the car. I'm skidding that way, but my nose, I'm pointing the other way. you don't understand how many people this is confused. They don't know what it means. And so the good news is, and again, we here at Brake Check, we like to bring practical advice and consumer tips and just to improve your life. And Bryan, you've got one for us. I would like for you to share that with the world so that they can be better drivers and be safer.
Well, and before I give out the golden knowledge, Craig, I want to clarify something, because if you're on the line, you're listening to this podcast right now, and you're from anywhere, I don't know, north of Oklahoma, you're probably laughing at us right now. And as much as I want to laugh with you, at least on the driving portion, I want to clarify a few things. We have hot summers, and our homes are designed to keep the cool in the home, not out of the home.
Right.
So when the heater goes out, it's kind of a big deal for a lot of people. And in terms of driving, we don't have snowplows. Our municipalities don't own snowplows at all.
They also don't own salt, which means our cars last.
That's the upside. Rust is not a problem, but we drop sand and we drop tractors with buckets on the highway. That's our version of a plow. So all that out of the way, the key to driving safely is drifting, Craig.
Drifting
is going to save inclement weather driving for everyone. I'm talking about infants. I'm talking about senior citizens. I'm talking about millennials. I'm talking about Gen A through Z, AAZZ. Okay? Drifting has taught me car control.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, being a hooligan sliding the tail around is a good time. Not going to lie. It's the most fun you can have in a car. Mm-hmm. But when the weather is bad, it is also teaching you to listen to what the vehicle is saying and listen to what the surface is saying. Because in drifting, you can't drift on asphalt the same way you can on cement. You have to treat it differently. The grip is different on those surfaces. Well, the same applies in snow or sleet or ice. Mm-hmm. Same scenario.
Or a wet road.
This applies in the rain too, completely. Mm-hmm. So I would argue that it is safer to actually drift a little bit. And this is actually what our dad taught us to do, Craig, was when the inclement weather is bad, you either bump the brake real quick and see how much grip you have. Or if you're a teenager and you're just looking for a good excuse, you go, well, I'm going to kick the tail a little bit and see how much grip I have. And that's honestly what I do all the time. And there's never a surprise coming. There's never, oops, there's the ice. Because you're continually casually checking. I'm not saying be a maniac and driving 4 lanes at the same time. I'm saying, it's okay if the car slides. Don't let it scare you. Get comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. Because what happens in our region is people do get the tail out a little bit and then they just don't know what to do. They freeze up.
Right.
Or they don't know what turn into the skid means. And so I want to clarify that. What that means is if the vehicle is oversteering, and that's probably a separate episode.
I was going to say, it really comes down to understeering and oversteering, and people don't know what that is.
That's really all it is, right? And that's really all drifting is too. It's a study of car control using oversteer and understeer. And to a drifter, understeer is the enemy. And what I mean by that is, if you understeer, that means the front axle no longer has grip and no longer has control on direction of the vehicle.
And the car just pushes forward.
It just pushes. So you turn the wheel. So you've already got the vehicle maybe going into a turn, and you turn the wheel some more, and then nothing happens. The front end gives up. So not only does it not turn more, it turns less because you've lost that grip you maybe have had prior to.
But it scares less people, and car manufacturers actually make most cars bias that direction, especially with front-wheel drive. It's kind of natural anyways.
Yeah, that's kind of a natural thing anyways. But to me,
it scares people less when car starts going sideways in an oversteer event, people freak out and they don't know what to do. In an understeer event, you usually just kind of let go of everything and it kind of straightens back out.
Right. Now, the dangerous part of that, though, Craig, and I kind of want to dig into this a little bit. I mean, not too much, but what happens in understeer as a driver, your only option at that point is to let off the throttle, let off the brake, and let the natural grip come back. And will it come back? Yes, it will come back. But it might be after you've already hit the tree. So that
you can't power your way out of it or steer your way out of it.
Correct. Whereas if you have an oversteer scenario, which means the rear wheels have lost grip and the rear is trying to come around, and that's what people mean by steer into the skid. Mm-hmm. If the tail of the car is kicking out right and the nose of the car is going left, you want to steer right into the skid.
Yes.
Okay, that's what that means.
To clarify. Yeah.
Just to clarify, that's what it is. But for a driver in your toolbox, of ability when you're driving. If the rear axle goes, you still have steering and primary braking.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot you can do with that. So you can either maintain the spin and avert the object you may be going towards, or you can let off the throttle like you would with a front wheel drive and it'll probably come back. Or simultaneously let off the throttle and turn into the skid and save it. So you have these options.
Right.
Whereas understeer, to me, understeer scares me a lot because there's nothing I can do. It's a matter of waiting.
I still remember my first understeer event. And I was like, oh, crap.
Oh, yeah. It's just, you're going to hit whatever you're looking at that point, and it's just not good.
There's nothing you can do. You're helpless.
Nothing you can do. And
and I think what scares oversteer events for people is if you do turn the wrong direction and away from the skid, well, you're effed. You just kind of spin out.
Right. Right, and that's true, right? And so how many people have put the tail of their car through a fence as a teenager?
Right.
I know of a teenager that's done that, and a couple. I happen to be one of them. So, and that's okay. It happens. But the reality is, as I've grown as a driver over the years, and I've done different things, I've learned that, oh no, I haven't. Because when understeer happens, you've run out of time as soon as it happens. There's nothing more to be done. With oversteer, you've now got. It might be fractions of seconds, but you've got some time. You can do something about it. You can try and save it, and in the interim, it's a lot of fun at the same time. So what I'm saying is, if everyone learned to drift a little bit, and by that I mean really just some basic car control, it would make it a lot safer. And anyone in the Midwest is already doing this every day when they go to work. Because look, when there's a blizzard in Minneapolis, or at least a blizzard of what we would call a blizzard, nothing closes down. Everyone goes to work. Same thing in Cleveland. Same thing in Denver. And granted, the resources and infrastructure are there for that. I'm not criticizing Texans. We're in that group too. Sure. It's been a very scary time for a lot of people. But in terms of road safety, I've been reminded of it a lot lately. And look, if you see someone sliding next to you and they're not just being a complete moron, they're probably testing the surface as well. So don't criticize them.
And that's
okay.
Much.
Yep.
Right. So, well, thank you, Bryan. Great advice. Very helpful. I think, you may have just saved some lives. So, you should feel good about that.
Drifting's going to save the world, Craig.
Before we close, I do want to just point out one thing, and would like to get y'all that are listening more involved in future episodes. So we'd like to invite you, if you have any topics or any questions or any feedback that you would like to share with us, that you'd like maybe for us to talk about, or you want us to just chew on or ruminate on or make fun of at us, however you want to do that. If you would email us at brakecheckshow@gmail.com, and we would love to share whatever it is you have to say. You can send us an audio recording, or if you just send us a message on any of our channels, we would definitely love to share that. So be looking for that. Drop us a line, leave us some information. We would love to interact with you all a little bit better.
Yeah, and another way to do that, Craig, is brakecheckshow.com. We have a contact link there as well.
That's a very good point. Thank you. Yeah, I forgot about that. If you go to our main webpage, there's a Get in Touch section, and just drop us a line there, and it will go straight to us. So, yes, multiple ways to do that. Thanks for listening, Bryan. As always, it was fun. We got to talk about cars again, and we had an excuse to do it. So that's why this podcast is so great.
Gotta love it. Great excuse to talk about drifting. I'm always here for that.
So, all right. Well, thanks for listening, and that's how do we close the podcast?
I think it's a wrap. We're gonna call it a wrap.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Wrap? Okay.
Like don't rap. No,
it's a
wrap.
Like a beat. You want to drop a beat?
Don't. No. It's cut scene. It's a wrap.
Just cut the scene right here.
Stop.